Hello everyone, I hope you're fine. I'm just gonna explain how to do a short meditation on emptiness, on selflessness, in the most simple way as it is explained in the Lamrim by using the four essential points. So, as we know, when we do meditation on emptiness, we are not trying to negate that things conventionally exist. We're just trying to negate that things don't exist independently through their own power in an autonomous way or in a independent way to prove that things are interdependent. So realizing emptiness means realizing that they are empty of a true entity, of a true self, of a true existence. But at the same time, we should accept that things conventionally exist. So we can take different types of phenomena for doing the exercise to realize emptiness or selflessness. But the Buddha and the masters had divided these category of phenomena into two, the persons and the phenomena. So we say that it's easier to start with the person than other phenomena. And among the person, taking our own person actually. So because to realize emptiness or selflessness, it means that we should first identify what we call the self and after try to negate that. So because we have a so long and deep and strong familiarity with grasping to the self of me as a person through beginningless lifetimes, so this way it will be easier to identify the self of the person, which is ourself, and after we can just transfer this kind of analysis to other phenomena. So what are these four essential points? First of these four essential points is identify the object of negation. So the object of negation, as I just said, is not the conventional me, is not the nominal me, is not the simply appearing me. This one we don't negate. We exist. We don't say we don't exist. But there is something that happens together with our mind which has a nature of clear luminosity, which has no impurity. But something happens with this mind that we call grasping to the self. Grasping to the self, we can call that also ignorance. Some people could call also ego. But actually what we mean is we mean a mental factor that observing our own simple person, what we call the aggregates. Aggregates means like our body, our mind, our emotions, feelings, etc. So all the parts of what we call me, that's the aggregates. So the self-grasping mind, self-grasping mental factor, or the ignorance observe these simple, multiple, interdependent, and impermanent aggregates. And they appear to have a unitary, permanent, independent entity. So what we call that? We call this self. This independent, permanent, unitary entity. This kind of thing that appear to this kind of mental factor, we call the self. So the mental factor grasping or believing in that, accepting that, we call grasping to the self. So if we want to be free of all sufferings, we have to stop this grasping to the self. How do we stop this grasping to the self? We have to stop to believe in the self. For example, if we want to stop the fear that there is a snake in our room, if there is no snake in our room, we have to make an exhaustive research to check if there's a snake in the room. And only when we realize and we see that there is absolutely no snake in the room, so the mind or the mental factor fearing the snake will disappear. We can try other way, just try to convince ourselves there's no snake. But actually, if we have seen ourselves that there is no snake, so the fear of the snake will be released. So we say that we are now bound to samsara, we are suffering in samsara. All the sufferings we have are result of this grasping to the self. If we can be able to release this grasping to the self, to overcome it, so we will be free of all the sufferings we have. So the first of these 4 essential points is called identify the object of negation. Because if we want to negate something, we have to identify it correctly at first. Like if we want to catch a thief, we have to identify the thief first. We cannot catch just anyone we see on the street. It will not be pointless in order to get back the thing we want, the thing that was stolen, for example. So now, to be able to negate the self and to be free of this false belief in the self, we have to first identify clearly what is this self. So to identify it clearly, we have to be in a situation where there is a strong grasping to a self, or we have to mentally recreate, to relive this experience where we were strongly grasping to the self. So what are the situations where we are strongly grasping to the self? They are the situations where strong emotions will arise in us. Strong mental affliction, for example, strong attachment, strong anger, strong fear. So let's say that you are in a ladder and you are very high and you are a little bit afraid of the heights, and somebody try to move the ladder and you feel, I will fall. So at this time, probably that your mind grasps strongly to me, I will fall. So at this time, you can be able to see what looks like this self. But to be able to do that, you need to just use a small portion of your mind, a small portion of your vigilance, awareness, that looking, oh, that's how I appear. So how should we identify it? We should identify it as something that exists through its own power, a self-independent entity. It's not something like, oh, the self is this, or the self is that, or the self is like in my body, the self is in my mind, or myself is related to my mind or my body. No, it should be something that appears to have self-independent entity, that exists through its own power, that is not related to anything else, that really exists this way. It exists through its own power. So that is the first of the 4 steps. So we should take time, because it takes time. We cannot do that straight away. We have to be really careful. If we put too much awareness to try to see it, it will not appear. But if we're not vigilant, it will appear and will not be aware of that. So we have to do this experience. You try first to, or you can wait to leave a situation, or you remember a situation where there is a strong, for example, when you feel like somebody tried to say you are bad, you are like this, like that. This time, probably you feel like, oh, that's not just, that's not true, I'm not like that. So you grasp strongly to the self at this time. So you can relive, you have not just to remember, you have to make this emotion to arise. At this time where the emotion arises, so you can see it. So you can do this first step. When you have correctly done this first step, it takes time, as I said, okay, I think you try to exercise this, maybe it will take few days, few weeks, few months, it depends on many conditions. So you try your best like that to first clearly identify this self. So when this is done, only when this is done, so the second step here will be, now we have to look for this self, like now you believe there's a snake in your home. Now you have to make yourself free of the thought there is a snake. So you want to realize there's no snake. So now we want to realize that there is no such a self. So this self now that we try to negate is the independent self, the truly existing self. We're not negating anything else. We're not negating that we are just simply existing. For example, even though there's no true things in the dream, there's no true dog or no true house in the dream, there's still appearing, there's still appearance of a dog and a house in the dream. Same thing, even though there's no true me in the my reflection in the mirror, there's still a reflection. So similarly, we are still there, but the way we exist is not something like through its own power. So this independent self, this true self, because it appears to be true, it appears to exist truly, to this self-grasping mental factor. So if this would exist, we have to look for all the possibilities. For example, if you want to be free of the fear of the snake in your bedroom, for example, let's say that you have a closet, you have under your bed, you have many parts of your room. So until you finish to check in every corner of your room, you will still be thinking, oh, maybe the snake is hiding there. So similar to that, you should be exploring all the possibility of how this self, where this self could be existing. So actually we can do that all possibility would be included into two. So the second of the four essential points after the first one was negating the object of, identify the object of negation. So now, second is the pervasion of all possibilities. What are all the possibilities? You have to make clear in your mind that only these possibilities exist. So when something truly exists, it should have true characteristic. For example, if something is true, so if it's blue color, it should be truly blue, for example. So nothing is truly blue because blue exists depending on many conditions. So same thing like small or big. Big is not truly existing because big depends on something that is smaller and something that is medium or whatever. So nothing exists truly. But to the self-grasping mind, this self, this me, seems to appear to exist truly. So now we want to negate that it doesn't exist this way. So we have to look for all the possibility, which can be included into two. If the self truly existed, it should be same or one or different from anything. But here, because it appears always in relation to the aggregates, our doubt is more about something related to the aggregates. So is the self same as the aggregates or different from the aggregates? So if something is true, it should be truly same or truly different from the aggregates. So if it's proven to not be truly same, truly one, or truly different from the aggregates, so it will prove that this true self doesn't exist. So you have to make analysis to make the second point clear in your mind, that there is no third possibility, that these two possibility exhaust all possibility. And it cannot be two at the same time or neither. Because if you prove two impossible doesn't make a possible. 2 0 doesn't make something like addition of number. 2 0 makes 0. So if two are impossible, the addition of the two is also impossible. So like that, we have to make this second point very clear in our mind. So when you have finished this analysis of this second point, now you have make this exploration, which are two different possibilities. Is the self truly one with the aggregates, truly the same as the aggregates, or is it truly different from the aggregates? So now we have the last 2 points. So let's start with the third one, which is the self the same as the aggregates? So if you just think about what are the characteristics of the aggregates, okay? Because something same should have the same characteristics. Okay? For example, when you look for your car in a parking lot, so you should look for the same as your car, like example, if there's a car that is similar but not the same, we don't call this car the same. Some cars are very similar to your car, but there's something different. The keyhole is not the same, or the thing hanging on the mirror is not the same. So there is something different. It's not the same. So you can only find your car, other car are not the same. So similarly, if there was a true self, it should be truly, its characteristics should be true. So truly same as the aggregates means completely the same. It is the same thing. So if the self is the same as the aggregate, for example, why would we say sometime, oh, my mind, my body? Even in the situation of the appearance, it looks for our mind that the aggregates and the self are not the same. Because sometimes we say, I have headache, look like I and my head is not the same thing. Or if you lose your hair, you say, I lost my hair, I lost my teeth, or even there was a part of our body that was cut, for example, we say, I lost one finger, I lost one arm. So it looks like I and the parts of me, which are like, for example, feelings, emotions, and our body, they are not me. They are not me. Sometimes we say, I should take care of my body. So this proves that body look like my possession, and I would be the owner. So this proves that the I cannot be the same as the aggregates. And most important thing, aggregates are multiple, are interdependent, are impermanent. The self that exists truly appears to have independent, permanent, and unitary nature, not multiple. There is not multiple selves, but the aggregates are multiple. The aggregates are changing moment by moment, or a body, for example, our thoughts. But the self appears to exist through its own power, being independent and permanent. So also we can think that if the self was the same as the aggregates, because the aggregates are impermanent, so when the aggregates change, look like the aggregates are not anymore. For example, we say sometimes that the particles of the body that were there a few years ago are completely different right now. So it means that if my particles of my body were the self, so now because they don't not anymore, so the self also not there anymore. Or example, when you finish your life, your aggregates dissolve, you don't bring your aggregates with you. So it means that the aggregates don't go to the next life, so the self will not go to the next life also. So there will be no rebirth. So all these things you can analyze to check, and until you become really confident, you have proven to your mind through logical reasoning that this self cannot be the same as the aggregate. And after that, we have only one possibility. Now, for example, if the snake was you have only 2 floors in your house, and the first floor was completely explored, so now you have only the second floor to explore. So after that, you will be convinced there is no snake in your house. So similarly, now that you have proven that the self is not the same as the aggregate, now you have to prove that the self is not different from the aggregates. So this is also not difficult to prove, because if the self was different from the aggregates, it means truly different. They have no relationship. They have no common basis. For example, if we have 2 objects, if we have a phone and a cushion, so this one, if it's in the east, this one can be the west. There's no problem. So similarly, if your self was different from the aggregates, as you are with your dog, for example, your dog could be in the east and you could be in the west. So your self could be in the west and your aggregates could be in the east. You could say to your aggregates, you could send your aggregates to the work today and you can stay at home very quietly. So you could identify the self without the aggregates. So let's take another example, the car. Can you identify the car without the parts of the car? Let's say that you just dismantle your car and you put all the parts of the car in the east. Can you identify your car in the west? So no, you cannot find a car that is different from the parts, because car is just a label that you put on the top of the parts with your mind. So similarly, self cannot be identified as different from the aggregates, because self appears always in connection with the aggregates. The only way that the self exists actually is the nominal self, the one that we just label on the top of the aggregates with the mind. So similarly, like that, you do the second, actually the fourth of the essential points, the second option, which is it different from the aggregates? Is it other than the aggregates? Truly other, truly different? And you can prove this way that it's not truly other also. So when you have done this meditation correctly, you have to have done every point perfectly. So this will bring in your mind great realization. That this self that you have grasped to for beginningless times, now you have started to realize that it completely doesn't exist. It's just like you were believing in something untrue, something not existing. So that give really great feeling, like great joy, great pleasure. Or it can give rise to fear also, because we are too much used to think that this is me and identify with this false idea of me. So we can feel that, oh, I don't exist. So that's the way we realize this selflessness, emptiness. So you can use this method. You have to think carefully. Today I just explained briefly, but you cannot realize only listening like that. You have to take time and analyze and do this research over and over again. And one day, eventually, you can understand. But you should always think that this realization, actually, when you observe after the self still appear, still continue. We never negate the self, the simple self. We just negate the truly existing, independent self. But the simply nominal self, you can see, continue to do your actions. So like that, we have to join these two realizations, that the simple self, interdependent self, continue to exist and create actions, abandon suffering, create happiness, continue progress to achieve calm abiding, special insight, and progress to enlightenment. But at the same time, there's no true existing to the self. So I hope it helps. I wish you a very good day, and you try to do this meditation over and over again. I wish you all the best. Take care.